All right, we're going to use our code to create a dynamic image button. So I'm going to remove our freeform image. And how am I going to do this? Well, what I'm going to do is I am going to see if I can't put my other button back. There we go. Okay, we'll have this add button that we'll be able to call, and our create button script, we will change this from clickable image to add. Great. Okay. Let me make sure that works. Yep. Okay. Great. So let's have it spawn graphical buttons. So what we can do is let's change a couple things around. So in this case, we have let new button equal document.create element button. Instead of a button, what we're going to create is we're going to create an IMG, because that's the tag, right? And what we need to do first is define the source. So IMG dot, oops, nope, I don't want that. I want IMG. Sorry, it's not that. It's new button. New btn dot src equals what? Okay, so in this case, it's img slash freeform dot png, and then I can do things like alt text. So alt equals clickable button. Okay. There's a couple things that aren't going to work for us, like this dynamic button. The dynamic button actually might work, but we're not going to do that right now. We're actually going to remove it. And we're not going to have inner text because that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But remember how I talked about a cursor? I can do img, new button dot cursor dot style dot cursor equals pointer. I'm going to try it at this point. I don't think that's going to quite work. Look at that. So when I roll over it, because we have some of the same code for the yellow and all that kind of stuff, that's pretty neat. But if you look at the pointer, it turns to a point. You know, it turns to something that lets me know that I can click on the button, which is actually a really nice user interface. I should say like affordance, so that we know what's going on. And I can do all kinds of stuff with this now. So instead of it being mouse up, maybe on mouse down, instead of background color, because it's an image, I can use something called opacity. I might make it 0.5. Get rid of this thanks thing. Don't need the inner text. All right, so save that. And on mouse up, change the opacity back to 1. That means it'll go from being like thin to 1. So I'll show you what this means. So when I click on it, it turns that, which is fun. Rolled out, rolled over, pressed. So that's kind of cool. I can do all those things. And then finally, if I'm not mistaken, I have this other one called locked. Let's do mouse over. New button dot source equals img slash lock. This is just an image. It's really not anything about locking or not locking. Save it, and then make sure that when we roll out, it goes back to freeform. You might name your images something like button over, button regular, etc. So we do freeform. These are the two images I have, freeform and locked. Give it a test. Add a new button. Look at that. When I roll over it, it changes. So if you are someone who loves to be in Photoshop and make squares and change colors and change buttons, you can do all of that. The important thing is that we make sure that we have an image, make sure that we have an alt tag on these so that these can work. But I think this is actually a really cool way for us to build an interface in a way that we couldn't before. The other thing is we can actually now write a script that not only does this kind of thing, not only, we can create a function that reads an array of buttons, creates the buttons, puts the images on the buttons, or puts, just if we're using text buttons, puts text on the buttons and, changes the background color and the foreground color based off of the interactions. So that's another powerful thing that we have the ability. So between everything we've created so far this semester, we now really have the ability to create interactive interfaces and have those interactive interfaces do things with code. So let's take a look at what our let's take a look at how we can use an array to do this, and then we'll look at our assignment.